everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. Thank you so much for joining us. We are excited to have Nachman Leeser, the founder of Connect Books, here today, as well as Cindy Thomason, the founder of Bookskeep. My name is Colleen Quattlebaum, and I'm the Director of Marketing at Connect Books. And we've partnered with Cindy now for quite some time. I've known Cindy for many years in the e-commerce industry. And so we're excited to partner with Bookskeep and show you a little bit more about what Connect Books can do to help you to track your inventory, sync all of your e-commerce data so you can really get clear about your profits. So we are certainly open to any questions that you have. Feel free to put them in the chat. But Nachman is going to dive right in and we'll give you a good demo of our software and show you the power of all of the features and what they can do for you. So Nachman, I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Colleen, for putting this all together. And Cindy, thank you for, inviting everyone and getting this set up and joining the webinar. All right,
we're really excited too, Nachman, just to have this tool available for our clients, because we have seen so many folks struggle with inventory, trying to do it all with spreadsheets and also trying to figure out product profitability through a hodgepodge of different tools that are out there that don't really sync to accounting data. So we, like Colleen said, we've been working with you for, I don't know, several months now with having some of our clients test Connect Books, and it's really solved a major pain point for them. So we're thrilled that you're able to do a little bit of a show and tell and help people see on the inside what it can do for us. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we've been working together already for a few months, and we have done a lot of, I would say, rigorous testing, making sure that everything is done right, and definitely move stuff in the right direction.
For sure.
All right, so I'm gonna jump in right over here, and I'm gonna highlight, where Connect Books can help out. So first, we have our nice dashboard, which you're able to see every single day, your total sales. We also have and you see your sales, orders, refunds. Our reporting system gets updated. It gets updated hourly, so this is constantly up to date. And you'll be able to see exactly, how well your business is moving on a day-to-day basis. One of the things I like to do is we also have a projection, this is just MAC data, so just a projection. But the question is, what we'll be making this month. And also a lot of times what I like to do on this month is you can have certain pointers where you can compare this month to last month to see okay, am I actually moving up this month, or am I moving down? And there's a lot you can do here. You can play around with the configurations over here and how to set up the chart and get everything done the right way. So I'm going to and then we also have a nice comparison report, which you can see as a total and compare month over month how well you're doing. And you can also customize it in terms of how well you want to how do you want to see the data. So I'm going to jump into our profit and loss report, and I'm going to explain to you one of the real things that why Cindy likes our reporting and where our reporting comes a lot into play is that a lot of times you're going to be working with your accounting firm, and the accounting firm is saying hey, last month really does not look like the way we wanted it should look. And then the challenge goes, okay, so, well, I'm looking at this in this tool, or I'm looking at this in this program, and I see that I am making money. The challenge happens is that when you work with an accounting firm and you're using a different analytics tool, there's one way how data gets booked into QuickBooks, and then there's different ways how the analytics tool pull that data. And then when you're trying to reconcile the two, that's where a nightmare happens, because there's a bunch of different dates in Amazon. For example, when an order comes in, there's the order date, which that can be, let's say, the 1st of the month. It can take 2 days to ship, which can be the 3rd. And then it might not post to the settlement report to the 10th or even the 15th. So the data, certain reports will be, certain softwares will record it based on the order date. Certain softwares will record it based on other dates. So what ends up happening is you need to start reconciling the differences between the tools that you're using to understand or the spreadsheets you have to what the accountant has. Now, when you both use the same platform and they're like, hey, last month we didn't make money, you're like, okay, give me a breakdown. You come into ConnectBooks, you get a breakdown. So that's really one of the biggest beauties of like utilizing one platform that, gives you analytics plus gives the same data to QuickBooks, is because the data you'll see in QuickBooks will be the same data here, and you won't be spending hours figuring out the differences between both different platforms. So over here, this is our general profit and loss, which on the profit and loss, you're able to see every product. We show you total sales, fees, ad spend. This is ad spend per product. Other fees would be storage fees. And then, of course, you have the cost of goods sold, and then you have your profit margin. If you want to get more information, you're able to click on a drop down, and you can see, let's say I want to see what this $39,000 merchant fees is, you get to see it over here. And then you have the other fees, disposal fees, and you're able to see everything right over here. If you want to see, let's say, which products are losing money, you can always go to profit column and you can do, let's say, less than 0, and you right away see all the products that are losing money at. You can also see your profit on an item level. Then we also show you the ad sales. So for example, if you're, let's say, spending money on ads, so in this case, this product sold $93,000. It had $93,000 of sales. And then we also spent $10,000 on ads. But the question is, from that $10,000 of ads, how much of the 93,000 was contributed towards the ad sales? And the answer is that the 10,000 in ads actually brought 34,000 in sales. So the ACoS is a metric which you take the amount of money you spend on ads divided by the total sales that came from the ads, and you want to make sure your ACoS is not going up too high. Meaning, even if you're making profit on a product, like let's say, for example, this product has a 73% ACoS, which is very, very high, and has $11,000 profit, which means most likely the ads are really not contributing to the total overall sales. So, this is something that should be looked at. So you have your ACoS, you have your ROI, you go see return rate. Like if your product has a high return rate, you want to really look into it. You also have, we show you sessions, conversion rates, buybacks. So for example, if you have, let's say, a certain dip in certain products, you want to understand why you had a dip or what went and where. Let's say you lose the buybacks or something like that. You also have conversion rates. Let's say, for example, you're driving a lot of traffic. So the sessions will be the traffic, but if people are not buying, then your conversion rate will be low. So sometimes you have to, let's say, update images or update listings to have a higher conversion rate. So the higher conversion rate, if you have a better you want to make sure you have a better conversion rate. And then this is just percent of sales. So there's also a lot of more data that you can add. So when you go to columns, like for example, if you want to add in the store, let's say you want to have the title of the products, you can add in the title of the products, and then you could also search by, you can also like go over here and then search by those titles. You could also add in the store. So like if you have multiple stores, you can do it. And then there's just like there's a lot more like ad sales. There's 14 days, 7 days. We also have page views plus sessions. And then, there's a lot more information you can add on. Now, once you do that, you want to, let's say, remember the configuration. You can also save this as a template. And then you can also schedule to get emails daily. So if you want to get it to your phone, every morning you want to get an email, you can schedule to get an email. And then one over here is where you would select the stores, which we integrate with Amazon, eBay, Walmart, Shopify. We also have TikTok and Target. And then over here is where you select the different dates. And then here you can customize it, how you want to run the reports. We also have the thing that we include estimated storage fees, which basically means that, the storage fee, you get charged usually like around at the 8th of the month for the previous month. So for the current month, when there's no storage fee in there, we can estimate the storage fee. So in that case, you are able to have the proper, the proper storage fee. Now, one new feature we just actually added on this week is called additional reports. So in order to make stuff easy, we went to additional reports where you're able to see how you could run the reports in ConnectBooks. So we have profit and loss by categories. We can run by stores, seasons, buyers. and run FBA versus FBM. So you just click in and the report opens up. Now, that is one very powerful report, which I don't take any credit for this report. So this report basically, we've been working with, we work with a lot of big sellers too, and we're particularly working with one seller who was a $70 million seller. And one of the things which they were asking for us was they actually designed this report, and this is what they sit on a day-to-day basis to make sure that their businesses are growing properly. So what ends up happening is, as of all the time, as you're going in your business and you're looking over listings and products, you're constantly making changes. So let's say, for example, one of the common questions I get a lot of times is like, okay, should I hire a new agency to manage my PPC spend? So I always tell people is that when you hire a new agency, what do you want to make sure? You want to make sure not just that they're moving up your sales, you also want to make sure that they're moving up your profit. So the comparison report is where you can take any time frame and compare. And what I always tell people is that, comparing is going to give you probably the strongest way of identifying how well your business is doing. So I remember, like, for example, when I hired employees, and I remember my first employee I hired, I thought like, oh, wow, I guess I'm just amazing and she can't do so much work. But then when I hired the second employee and I saw that the second employee is like producing 3 times the amount of the first employee, I'm like, no, she's playing around, so I have to get rid of her. So the idea was that when you're using comparing between, let's say, different employees, like you could see like a certain metric, like how well one performs. And the same idea is what you want to do with your products. Okay, but sometimes one product could perform better than the other. But let's say if you do well in a particular month, let's say in February, you have a knockout of a month, you want to make sure every month you're keeping, you're doing the same thing. So the real question is, if you switch something, you're going to be scared. Let's say you move up the price, you move down the price. Let's say you move up the ad spend, move down the ad spend. So you want to constantly make sure that you're comparing all your months to the right month to make sure that you're getting the best result possible. So over here, the idea would be is that you would jump into the product, and then when you run the report, you can select, let's say, the 2 different date ranges. So let's say I have this date range, I want to break it down by week, or I want to run it, let's say, for the whole year and break it down by month. Or I want to, let's say, do this year, July 4th versus last year, July 4th, something like that. And then what you do is you have over here all the different columns and you can compare. Let's say you moved up the price. So what the average selling price was, how many units you sold, refunds, units, profit. Now, what I like to do is look at the profitability, how like it goes up or down, and then you want to keep it in line with the ad spend. Like you want to see, okay, this product actually, based on the ad spend and based on this and based on that. So let's say, for example, if I was to decrease ad spend, how will that affect my profit? Right? I know it's going to affect my sales, but the question is, who says it's going to affect my profit? I've seen many times where people, let's say, moved up the price at a couple of dollars and it had a huge impact on the profit. And a lot of times they were like really scared to do certain stuff, but sometimes you have to take certain initiatives. And then you can also see if you lose the buybacks, you can also see your conversion rate. So let's say you redo your listings and you want to make sure your conversion rate actually trends up, not downwards, or you want to make sure it actually makes a difference. So you're able to like compare in a very easy way, and that's how you can constantly make sure that you're moving in the right direction. Now we also have more stuff you can add in. For example, if you want to see like your cost or merchant fees, like there's a bunch of different stuff you can add in, and the same as before, you could save it as a template, also export it to Excel. So you can add in a bunch of different stuff right over here. You can expand all or collapse all the columns, and see, you want to be able to see which ones you want to look at, and you want to run through your products, making sure that you're trending upwards and making sure whatever changes you're doing are having a greater impact on your bottom line. So those are
and Nachman, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, I know that we have quite a few customers who were using this report and enjoying it for before and after Prime Day comparison, both for that immediate, to compare if they're actually making more money, just making more revenue, or if they're making more profit from Prime Day because of all the ad spend. But quarter over quarter, with Black Friday coming up, that's a great time to compare as well. So. And we do have one question that came in too. if Amazon FBA is used to fulfill TikTok Shop and Shopify, can that be identified separately?
I think we're working on a feature because if you use FBA, it's gonna come into ConnectBooks as a non-Amazon fulfillment fee, meaning the fee that Amazon charges. Once TikTok and Shopify are connected, we'll get the data from each one of those places. I think we're working on a feature where we can where we'll take that Amazon fee and tie it back to like the TikTok or Shopify order. So I do know we'll have it pretty soon. And then that's how you have total visibility, meaning you could see, oh, on TikTok, let's say had 100 orders and they're all fulfilled through Amazon. This is what my net line is. So I know we'll have it pretty soon, but the TikTok orders won't get messed up with Amazon. Just the fee that Amazon charges will not be in your Amazon account, meaning it won't be listed under a product in ConnectBooks because it's really a fee tied to a different marketplace.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious about that. And I was curious about this report too. Your comparison report, is it pulling across like multiple platforms? So it says up here 6 stores selected. I think that's what that says.
Yeah,
So is it pulling six Amazon stores where this?
Yeah, this case it's 6 Amazon stores, but
Okay.
it can go based on whatever you want. So
Okay.
whatever ConnectBooks integrates is always going to be here.
Okay. All right. So it doesn't matter. Um, I guess it's all about how you've set up your SKU identifiers, whether or not it's lumped together or kept separate, in the different platforms.
We can also run it by ConnectBooks items. So by ConnectBooks
Okay.
item, basically when we jump into the inventory is that, once you attach a SKU to an item in ConnectBooks, so let's say you have the same product selling across 5 different platforms, but in ConnectBooks, they all get connected to one massive SKU. You can run the comparison report based on the ConnectBooks items. So that's
Okay.
where it's going to show you in that way if you want to look at a particular. So the reports are very dynamic. You can run it in whatever way you want. But as long as it goes in there.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Sure. I just want to add on to one thing what Colleen mentioned before about being able to look. I actually remember I signed up a seller like right after Prime Day, and he was busy to show me his sales. And when we actually looked over the profit, he made Prime Day, he did double sales on Prime Day, but he made less profit than a usual day because he was giving away so many coupons and he had to increase the ad spend. So it doubled the sales. I remember what sales, but I think on an average day he made 5,000 profit, and on Prime Day only made 4,000. Because
Wow.
and the problem
Yeah.
was he knew like how much money he makes on a single day because he never like really narrowed it down to a day. So with the comparison report, what we did is we broke down the results by day for like a full month, and we're able to see the trends, how much money he makes every month. We're able to see, wow, on Prime Day he actually doubled, but the profit was like $1,000 less than the regular day. And he's like, what? I can't believe this.
Yeah, I've done that deep dive with lightning deals too. And sometimes those are just killer. It's like, man, you'd have been better just to turned your head.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump in here to the inventory portion of ConnectBooks. So what I would say before I jump in, to give a little intro, like, why did ConnectBooks create an inventory platform? Now, and just to give the background, our focus is always around profitability and cash flow. We want to make sure that, businesses are profitable. The idea of having good books, there's one thing about having books for the IRS, but there's other thing about having good books of actually understanding your business, understanding how well your business is doing, and from that, you make better decisions and be able to build up your business. So first thing is you want to make sure you're profitable, because if you're not profitable, you're not going to get anywhere. But second thing is, even if you're profitable, which we just finished reviewing a bunch of different reports, you also want to make sure that you're cash flow positive. I've seen many profitable businesses not be cash flow positive, and that strains a lot of resources, and it makes it not be a fun business. And I'm a very strong believer in profit first, as Sydney is very much with profit first, and especially she wrote her book Profits First for eCommerce. But the idea is we want to make sure that you're profitable, and we want to make sure you have cash flow. So to really distinguish the differences between looking at the profit reports and the inventory reports is, in a very like fast way to say it is, if you're losing money on a product, right, that's going to be a profitability standpoint. But then there's a challenge. A lot of times these products that just don't sell fast enough or not selling, and that ties up your cash flow, which you're not going to see that on your profitability report, right? Profitability report is only going to show you products that sold. What happens if the products that didn't sell? Or let's say you bought stock. Let's say you bought, let's say, 100,000 units, and you're anticipating to sell this in 2 months. And meanwhile, you're only selling 5,000 units a month. So it's going to take you over a year to get rid of this. So in that case, that's also straining your profitability. So the idea of really of us taking a deeper dive in inventory is more about understanding turnover ratios, like how fast do you spin a product? How strong are you able to turn it over so you're not like tying up cash? Like if we go back to our previous example, where let's say, for example, our previous case where you're buying $100,000 worth, you're buying 100,000, let's say, widgets, and you're anticipating to sell it over 2 months, but at the end of the day, you cannot sell more than 5,000 pieces a month. So that's going to take you roughly like a good 17, 18 months to sell out. Now, carrying so much stock on hand is not making you make more money, because if you would just buy, let's say, 10,000 pieces every 2 months, the amount of money you'd be tying up would be much less versus tying up 100,000 units. So the idea is that you want to try to buy as enough as you can move. Meaning it's not just about moving fast, it's about buying the right amount to not keep more stock than you need to. So first thing is, in ConnectBooks, what we do is we create an item database, right? You want to have, because each product can be listed multiple times. Each product could be listed across many different marketplaces. So basically, as you create an item, on the item itself, you have the ability to put, we have the on-hand stock. You can link it to a bunch of different listings. You get an item name, description, categories, brands. Now, these are actually very cool features, because if you put in the brand, you can afterwards run reports in ConnectBooks by brand or manufacturer. So like, for example, if let's say you have a particular brand, let's say you're working with a particular brand, you want to make sure, am I making money off this brand across the board? You can run a report in ConnectBooks by brand if you set up the items correctly. And the same thing is by manufacturer. So once you create the items in ConnectBooks, the next step would be is purchasing. Now, on the purchasing side is where you would be entering all the bills into ConnectBooks. Okay, so once you create your item database, the next thing is you can also create in ConnectBooks purchase orders, and then you can also create bills. So the idea is when you enter a bill right over here, you put in the information, the bill number, the vendor, you put in all the items, the items that you're purchasing. Now, the benefit of first thing is that we also want to make sure with the bills is that we have the most accurate information in terms of cost. So the idea boils down when it comes to profitability reports, which I've also seen a lot of times, is people not have the accurate cost. Why? Because costs constantly change. Cost goes up, cost goes down. So the idea is that with ConnectBooks, you can log the cost of every individual purchase. So that's how we know exactly what's going on. Now, especially today's days, we're having a lot of issue with tariffs. And I've seen many times actually where certain clients I've been working with, where they thought they were profitable, and it turns out that after doing landed costs, they weren't profitable. And the challenge is that you can say, this product cost me $5 a piece, and then it cost me to import, let's say, another $3. But in today's day and age, everything is unpredictable, and you don't know what the tariff is going to be tomorrow, and you don't know it's very hard to predict what it's going to be. So the best way would be is where you just have every purchase recorded properly with the proper tariff and the proper freight cost. Now, one of the other features we have is that you can add in the tariffs when you add the landed cost. We can do it by CVM. So let's say you're bringing in a container of, let's say, 10 different items inside. When you set up the product in ConnectBooks, one of the things is you upload the dimensions. Once you upload the dimensions, let's say, for example, I have 5 different products in a container. What I can do is I can say, okay, this container costed me $5,000, and then it will take that $5,000 and split it across the 5 different products, but based on how much space each product takes up in the container. So that you'll be able to do right over here. So those are a bunch of different bills you're able to enter. And then once it's there, we have an export button directly to QuickBooks, so you don't have to, enter it a second time. When you enter a bill, you're also able to enter it against the purchase order. So like if you want to keep track, like you're able to keep track how many open purchase orders you have, how many closed you have. You can also make memos and do stuff. You can also export it from here to a PDF and use this to send to your vendors a proper, purchase order and keep track of it. So this is more like, on the basic side. Now, on the sales side is that we also, since you'll be tracking inventory with ConnectBooks, you'll have the ability to also record B2B sales. Meaning to say that, all the sales that you do on the marketplaces, for example, Amazon, eBay, Walmart, those automatically come into ConnectBooks and that will deduct your inventory. But what happens if you do B2B sales? So you need to record that, and you have the option right over here. You can add an invoice, you select a customer, put in all the information, and you can also export it to you could download like a PDF. If you want an invoice, you can download a PDF to send to the customer. And then from here, you can export it to QuickBooks. Now, once you have the inventory set up, so you'll be able to run an inventory summary report, which the inventory summary report will show you the inventory available on based on different locations. So we'll show you what you have on Amazon, your FBA warehouse, and what's in transit to FBA. We automatically pull that data from Amazon and we move your inventory. So what happens is when you purchase, you put stuff into your default warehouse. And then every time you have an FBA shipment, ConnectBooks automatically take the inventory out of your default into the in transit. And then from in transit, it will go into FBA. So first thing is with inventories, you want to make sure your number is accurate. You want to make sure you have your proper asset value and know what your inventory is at any given time across all your different warehouses. So that's how you're able to make proper decisions and understand what's happening. You can also filter based on item, category, brands, manufacturers, vendors. Like if you want to see how much inventory you have from a particular brand, or based on a particular buyer. If you have an employee that's doing a lot of purchasing for you, you want to be able to run it based on that. And you can always export it to Excel. Now, the other feature which I love, which is the main feature, is the inventory age. So once you have all the inventory put in, the real question is, how healthy is your inventory? So right over here, you can see your average days in stock and your total value. And this is really a key feature because a lot of times you'll have certain products that are sitting around for very, 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 very long time. And it's really tying up cash. And, if you have 10 SKUs, it's easy to be on top of. The minute you hit 200 to 300 SKUs, it's a nightmare. It's impossible to be on top and understand how long is every product laying. And this is also not something you could do in Excel. So what we do, we literally track every single purchase, meaning every time you purchase new inventory, we could set it like a batch. And then every time a product sells, what we do, we use the method called FIFO, first in, first out. And every time a sale comes in, we deduct one piece out of the first batch. So that's how we always know how much inventory is left from that batch and based on what day it was. So in that case, you can see like how long your inventory is sitting around. If let's say you want to do it, you can even do this after 180 days. The 30-day, you can do 30-day intervals, and based on 180 days, which will give you a half a year. And, you can also go from here up to a full year and see the difference and see exactly what's going on.
And if you can just clarify, Nachman, one question that came in is, does this also track the AWD warehouse along with the FBA warehouse?
Yeah, so the way we do it is that when you purchase, that's the point of entry that it comes into ConnectBooks. So for example, usually what would happen is if AWD is your default warehouse, you put it into AWD, and then we pull all the shipments from Amazon and then transfer the inventory accordingly. I do know that we are working on another feature to get, sometimes Amazon can replenish AWD, which I know we will have that pretty soon. But the idea is that you anyway need to record every purchase. So your purchase gets recorded in ConnectBooks and you put it into the proper warehouse. And if you're sending everything to AWD, then everything will be ready in AWD and you get it from there. So, but we will have another feature coming in with AWD pretty soon as well. So the inventory age is really, for me, like it's very crucial report because it's like I once working on a seller, he's like, I have $3 million worth of inventory. I'm like, who said it's worth 3 million? I'm like, I said anything that's usually my metric is anything that's laying more than, if you're buying domestically, you shouldn't have more than 2 months of stock. If you're buying internationally, the most you should have is 4 months. The idea is that you want to constantly keep on replenishing, that you shouldn't have too much, laying on hand. So this is on the inventory age side, which we can do. And then, there's a bunch of different reports that we have. Also very cool reports. We have something called an inventory detail, which I've seen a lot of times. What happens is with certain softwares is that you're saying like, hey, I see this number here, but it doesn't make sense where you got to this number. So let's say, for example, if you want to know where we got to this number, you can do something called an inventory detail, where you just put in an item, and then we give you every single transaction from this product. And you could also filter by warehouse. Like, let's say you don't want to see FBA, you want to just see, like, I want to just see what happened in the default warehouse on this product. You're able to filter down just to that product. And then you can see like all the shipments, like these are the bills, this is what you received, this was an inventory adjustment we did to pull it off. And then you see all the shipments going out to Amazon. So you can reconcile those back to, let's say, your 3PL and make sure that you have the proper time. But the main focus is to really, have a good grip on your age and making sure that you buy stuff and it moves fast enough and it moves along the right way. The other thing is we will be having coming out pretty soon, like somewhere in the next, I would say probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks, is we're going to be having a forecasting report, which the forecasting report is going to be able to take this information and say, okay, these products on average sell X, and based on what it sells, this is how much you should be purchasing. And it's going to be very much geared towards, like, they say sometimes, like, these are old saying, a quick nickel is better than a quick nickel is better than a slow dollar. So the idea is that you want to try to make sure that you're moving fast enough that you're not tying up your cash, and at the same time you also want to make sure that you're profitable.
That was going to be my question, Notman, was what was the status of the forecasting? So it sounds like it's coming pretty quick now. When we first started talking about this, it was back in March, and I know it was just you were putting it on the roadmap then. So it sounds like you guys have made a lot of progress.
Yeah, it's a very complicated task, especially what I've been told that testing is starting like somewhere this week. So like it's already done. We just need to start testing it internally. So usually once we start testing, it's probably another few weeks till it gets out. There was a lot of challenges with forecasting. Like I know one of the biggest features we built, which we've gotten a lot of requests, is let's say if you let's say have inventory in the UK, let's say you're selling in the UK and selling in the US. However, you finished up your inventory in the UK. Now you need to replenish the UK, but it doesn't make sense for you to send your US inventory to the UK. Now, a lot of replenishment softwares will say, oh, you don't need to replenish this product because you still have 10,000 units in the US. But reality is in the UK, you're empty. So what you want to do is we built like a feature we call regions, is where we could replenish based on different regions and based on where it's coming from. So if, for example, in the UK, you're running short, and you could set that UK should only look at the UK warehouses and it shouldn't look at any US warehouses. And then based from there, it would trigger a PO from
That's
that.
awesome. Cool.
Yeah, and then there's also a lot of other features, like in terms of 3PL. Like if you want to understand, like, okay, so let's say I want to keep like a certain reserve. So you also want to route different warehousings. So like, for example, if I have like, at what point should I be triggering a PO from the US versus at one point do I say, do I have enough in my 3PL to just keep on replenishing? So it's a lot that went into it. Pretty complicated, but we more or less got it at this point.
Cool. And will it just forecast the units that you need to buy, or will it also give some kind of estimate as to how much cash you need to be able to make that, when you issue that PO?
Well, once you have the units, you know how much cash you're going to need because you set up the products with a cost, and all of them have a cost in ConnectBook. So you'll be able to see from there how much you need to have.
Okay, awesome. Because honestly, most of the ones I've looked at, they don't take it to that next step. They just tell you these are the units, and I'm like, yeah, but you gotta have you gotta have the money to know what you're really dealing with. So why not let the computer do the math? So
Yeah, it will automatically, you'll have the option to automatically insert in ConnectBooks as a PO. So basically what happens is once you forecast, you have a button like issue POs, and it's gonna like trigger a bunch of different POs in ConnectBooks. And from there, you have the ability to send it to your vendors.
okay. All right, awesome. Thanks.
Good. And
Yeah,
then,
so
yeah, Nachman and Cindy, if one of the BooksKeep clients want to sign up, should they go directly through Cindy or their bookkeeper? Bookkeeper.
Yeah, all these books,
Yeah,
all our names.
Connect Books. Yeah, well, what's the best way if a BooksKeep client does want to sign up and get started for onboarding process and making sure all that data is, gets done seamlessly?
Yeah, we would like for folks to work with their bookkeeper. Their bookkeeper is working with our internal champion in BooksKeep to, just be sure that we have everything in order from our client's perspective to make the time that we spend with the team there at Connect Books go smoothly. And so, yeah, that would be the best thing, I think, just to reach out to your bookkeeper, and we will then just do a quick look over the account, be sure we've got everything in order, and then get the Connect Books team involved.
yeah, the best is always to keep your bookkeeper involved, so they're in the loop, they know what's happening, and then we get involved. That once they're in, we come in, and then we'll work directly with BookSheep to make sure it's being done right.
Yeah, there's, it seems like accounting is a very rule-driven thing, that it should always be this way. But the reality is people have different ways they do things, and our workflow is set up based on, the way we've got our processes for our clients. So, and, it meshes very well with what's going on with the team at Connect Books. But we just always want to be sure we're holding hands going forward.
Makes sense. Anything additional that you want to share, Nachman, that we didn't get to, or?
No, I think I gave basically the main. I mean, the very idea is that if you're, I mean, if you feel like you want to improve your business and you want to make sure that you're making more cash, more profit, really we give you the tools, that where you take a deep dive. And it's also part of having the software is that it's automated. Like a lot of times people like do all these calculations in Excel and they're great at it, but the problem is it takes them a lot of hours to prep all this kind of work and figuring it out. But the idea is if you want to really take the deep dive into it and work on your business to make sure you're moving it up the right way and making sure that you're increasing your profits every single month. This is really where Connect Books will definitely be able to help you, and especially you need a good bookkeeper alongside to make sure everything is running smoothly. So having a good bookkeeper is the first key, and then getting the proper tools in place so that you can automate the work and get it done in a timely manner where you're able to review it on a monthly basis.
Yeah, I'll add too, because it may not be obvious to folks. Connect Books kind of is standalone, but it really integrates back to either QuickBooks or Xero. So the accounting platforms that most folks use in the US right now are running in the background doing the accounting piece, and ConnectBooks is really focusing on the store piece of it that can, or all those different platforms. It's a lot more complicated than a store, but all of those different platforms are then all of that data can then just sync directly over to the accounting platform. And what's nice about that you don't get with spreadsheets, I don't care how careful you are and meticulous you may be, spreadsheets take a lot of care and feeding, and you don't know exactly how accurate you are on costing, for example, until you can really tie it back to accounting data. And accounting data is where all that stuff gets reconciled back to bank accounts and all your financial platforms. So when you can tie all of that together with one tool where everything reconciles back to the financial data that that we know has to be right when we go back to the bank, for example, then you just have a lot of confidence that you didn't miss something, that you don't have a formula off, because all of that kind of stuff, when it's done through a system like ConnectBooks, those things tie back to that financial data, which is the source of truth, so to speak. Whereas as careful as you might be with a spreadsheet, you can miss that. You can miss something, and you don't know exactly how tight your forecasting is, or your costing is, et cetera. The other thing I wanted to just touch on quickly, if you would, Nachman, is you have you've got the ad data in there now in terms of being able to look at profitability using the ad data. That is, to me, a really great feature, because people can see at the product level not only what their costs are, but they can attribute, really get a true contribution margin, because you can figure out you've done the work to figure out how the ad costing plays into that. I just wondered if you could talk just a minute about how you're getting that, what the sources are, if you've got plans to go beyond. I think right now you're just pulling it straight from the Amazon API, if I remember right.
What do you mean if I have? What is your question about plans on more of that? Like, is there?
I was remembering at one point we talked about Facebook and
Right. Oh,
Meta
yeah,
ads and
yeah,
Google
yeah.
ads and things like that. And I know that was in your roadmap when we talked a
Right.
few months back, and just maybe an update on how you're doing it right now, and then what's on the roadmap as well.
Right. So the way the ad data works is that we connect directly to Amazon's API for the ads. If you pull the settlement report, you're not going to have the ad data there, meaning Amazon has two options. Once they can charge a credit card, or they can take it off the settlement. So if they charge a credit card, you'll never even see it on the settlement. But if they take it off the settlement, you'll just see like a lump sum charge of 500. So it's a different API that we connect to, which gives us the breakdown of the ad spend by SKU. Also, I would say that that API is very tricky because the numbers constantly change. It's definitely gotten better over time. But like if you look, let's say, at your ad data at a particular product and your ad spend today, and you look back tomorrow for today, you'll see a different number. So it takes like a few days for Amazon to like straighten it out. So what we do is, as a software, we're able to refresh the data for like the past 2 weeks every single night, to constantly keep on pulling the data, so to make sure we have the correct data. So that's a very important metric. Now, when it comes to Walmart, we are approved and authorized by Walmart to get the ad data from Walmart as well. Not too many softwares have it. And then for eBay, we're able to get that as well too from eBay, based on the listings and the fees they charge us. Now for Shopify, a ton of the ad spend will probably be through Google or Meta, and it's in our roadmap, probably more like Q4 of 25. We should have that, come into ConnectBooks, and then, bring it out in there. On the Amazon side, I also know that we do have sponsored brands and videos. Like we have all different types of ads meaning we pull all different types of ads from Amazon, but breaking it up per SKU is pretty complicated. And I know that we worked on getting the videos and the ads and, all the other ones, as much as it's possible to bring it up, to break it up on an item level, so you can see exactly how much money you're making.
It's awesome. Yeah. And so when the integration you're working on with Meta and Google, will you be able to take that back to the item level, or will that just be like peanut butter spread?
No,
Or
no, no, that will go back on an item level. That will all go back
Okay.
on an item level.
Okay.
And I mean, the main where people spend in Google is more like for Shopify. So, that's all gonna go back over there.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Exciting stuff. You guys, I mean, honestly, every time we get together and look at something with one of our clients, I'm like, wow, they've got new reports, they've got new features, and it's you guys don't let any grass grow under your feet. You're constantly got new stuff coming out. So that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. We constantly get it. We have to constantly keep on pushing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Nachman, and getting into the details with what folks can really get out of the system. And Colleen, thank you so much for hosting and pulling us all together today.
Sure. Thanks everybody for attending, and to Nachman and Cindy. I think it's a great partnership, and we're looking forward to helping more sellers find more profitability in their business.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.